Hey guys, HardlyBriefDan here with episode 42 of the Unity Make an RPG series, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about our turn-based battle stuff, and we're going to get into that in just a few moments. But first, I wanted to apologize and say sorry that I never fixed the problem that I left with our database, our item database video in episode 40, and so I went ahead, I opened up this base item script. I'm going to go ahead and show you the error that we're getting. We're getting this base item does not contain a constructor that takes 0 arguments. And basically this error is being thrown because of our base potion, scroll, and weapon scripts and equipment scripts. And the way to stop this error is by adding a simple function method here that basically is a public item, like a public. It's a public method, and it's of type base item, and that's it. So what's going on, I'm pretty sure, is it's looking to create an item, or inherit, and when it inherits that class, it's looking to find what it needs. And if you have a function here, or this function that we added when we created the database, basically it's looking at this and saying, hey, where's the dictionary, you know? I don't require a dictionary, I need something that doesn't take anything. Well, this is what that function does. You can actually add these variables in here and set base values for them if you wanted in this function here, but you know, I'm not going to do that. You go ahead if you want, but basically if you just make this, keep it empty, doesn't take anything, it doesn't return anything, that's important, does not return anything, and it doesn't take anything, you can go ahead and add, you know, item ID is equal to something if you want here, but go ahead, you can just leave this blank and control S to save. And this is in the base item script, remember that. Control S to save, and that error will go away. And basically, it knows now how to create the item or inherit those features, and it will inherit them with everything on them set to null or 0 in this case. So, sorry again that I forgot to do that. I should have done that before, and I'll go ahead actually and where are we at? Oh, I'll go ahead and zoom in. And show you guys again. This is the public base item method that doesn't return anything. It doesn't take any arguments, and that's it. That's all you have to add. Pretty simple fix for the issue that we were having, and I'm glad that we can get it done and move on. So there we go. Now to go back to what we were doing last time, we started working on a turn-based battle combat state machine, which I know a lot of you guys are excited for. So I'm glad that we can start working on it and get into it. But and so, continue on, we added a battle scripts class here. It's called battle state start script, and it's right here. And basically this controls where we create our enemy, and we choose if the player goes first or if the enemy goes first. Pretty simple. We also created a stat calculation script that calculates what our stats are worth, which is good because we're going to need that when we actually start doing some battle calculations with, you know, moves and stuff. So that brings us to our next state, which is player choice or enemy choice. And at this state, the player or enemy is going to input a move. And we don't have a way to do that, and we don't have any abilities or moves to input. So what we're going to do today is create a simple class, a couple of classes, that basically is going to be a base move, which all of our moves will have, and then a class and a couple classes that will be moves themselves. This is much like we did. I know this is kind of boring to watch, but it's much like we did for the classes and races and stuff beforehand. And I'm going to go ahead and just do a couple. We're going to make the base move or base ability, and then we'll go ahead and make like 2 moves, and we're going to leave them alone. And then we'll use those 2 throughout the battle state system. And then when we get, you know, maybe later on I can make more in the next live stream I do, whatever, we can make some moves together. But we'll do that today, and then hopefully I can throw together a quick GUI for testing the battle state system, because we can't, you know, we can't just go off script. You know, we need to have something that resembles some sort of battle, right? And so we're going to do that in a GUI. So that's the plan for this video, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So jump into Unity. I'm in our same as always project here, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder in scripts, and I'm going to call it abilities. And right away, you can skip this if you want to use a database for your abilities. It would be exactly like the we can skip some of this, but it'll be exactly, the database will be set up like the item database. So I challenge you guys to go ahead and try to create one for abilities. I'm not going to do that right now because it's a little time consuming, and frankly I can just get this done and we can move on to more of the battle system stuff, which I know you guys want. So I'm going to go ahead and make a class called base abilities, or we'll call it base ability, and I'm going to go ahead and make another script called we'll just say let's see, slash let's say auto attack is one, or we'll say just attack is one, and then we'll go ahead and create another ability and we'll call it a sword slash. Okay, so these two the attack class, base ability, and our sword slash. The attack and sword slash are actually abilities that will inherit from base ability. Base ability is everything our base ability we want to have. So in that, we're gonna go ahead and there's a few things that we want. We don't need any of this. We're not gonna inherit from auto behavior, so we don't need the start or update function. And we're gonna go ahead and make this serializable. And remember, to do that, you do the square brackets and you go system dot serializable, and then your close bracket, and now we've serialized this class. We don't need system collections or Unity engine. So I'm going to go ahead and close those out. I'm going to control us to save here, and then we're going to start. And we know that we want a private string, and this is going to be ability name. And I think what I'm going to do is, just to keep this short and simple, we're going to go ahead and just do, oh no, I'm going to do this right. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that, and then we're going to go ahead and put a private string ability description. We'll do private int ability ID, and we'll go ahead and do private int ability power. So the ability power would be like the base amount it does, and then we'll go ahead and do private int ability. I'm going to say cost, and this can be anything. This could actually be cost that requires coins. It could be energy. Basically whatever you need to do. If you need a cooldown here, you can go ahead and do a ability cooldown, status effect. Maybe you can attach an item to it. There's all kinds of things you can do, and you should definitely think about that. But I'm going to go ahead and just do a few simple ones to get up and running. I'm going to go ahead and create our public setters and getters real quick. So we're going to go ahead and do public string ability name, and that's going to take a get, and then we'll go ahead and do our set, and we'll come up here, and that's going to go return ability name, and then we're going to go ability name is equal to value, right? And I forgot my colon, semicolon. Control to save. We're going to go ahead and copy this and paste it. So we'll go paste like that. We have ability description. Go ahead and do that. We have our ID, which is an int. And it looks like I pasted one too many, which is okay. We can go ahead and fix that in just a second. Oh, I don't know why I just did all that. Go ahead and copy that. We'll do, let's see, power. We did cost. We're going to have to go change these to ints. Like that. Pretty simple. Okay, we're going to capital A, and capital A. Alright, so we got capital A. Alright, so we got our description, our name, ID, power, and cost. Now, if you remember, if you're going to build the database, remember, for all these you add, you're going to need a slot in the database that basically access these, or you set this equal to something. So you could have 30 different things in here, and you're going to have to make sure that you put something down for all 30 of those things, and then parse them and everything. Like I said, exactly like the item database. If you want to do the ability database, it's going to have a different name, but you're going to import them all the same way, you're going to parse it all the same way, and you're going to attach it all the same way to the ability. And I suggest you do that if you're going to be making tons and tons of abilities, or I mean, the scripting works. These files are very, very tiny when the game compiles anyways, so it's not too big of a deal. I built a game with like 30 moves on it that did this. And it looks like my monodevelop has frozen. Hopefully, I'm going to go ahead and restart it. Hopefully I can get it back up and running. I don't know what happened. Okay, here we go. So we have our base ability here. We have our attack, which is our first move, and that's going to inherit from our base ability. We do not need Unity Engine, and we need to go ahead and set this one, make it serializable. So we'll go ahead and put that above the class. I'm going to go ahead and go into / and do the same thing. Going to set it up so we can go ahead and type it pretty quick. Ability, here we go. We're not going to use these functions again because we're not using mono behavior. I'm going to go into our attack and get rid of them. And then we're going to go ahead and call the function. So we're going to go ahead and do public attack. And this probably isn't, we're going to actually call this attack ability. Just because we use attack function later because it's a very generic name. We don't want any screw ups. So now we're going to go ahead, and we've done this before, we're going to go ahead and do ability name. It takes a string, so we're going to call it attack. We'll call it just normal attack, I guess. Again, just to kind of change it up. Ability description, and we'll go ahead and set that to a normal attack. We have the ID. Go ahead and set that to 1. We'll go ability power. Set this equal to, I don't know, 10, and then we'll go ability cost. And we'll set this equal to 5. These numbers don't matter right now because, well, none of these numbers really matter right now because we haven't balanced the game, but they're there so that we can look at them and use them. So I'm going to go ahead and Control S to save this. When I exit out of this and go into Unity, we are going to have to change the name. So go ahead and in Unity, go ahead and change it to attack ability. If you're doing this or if you've already named it correctly, then don't worry about it. The next thing we're going to go ahead and do is do the other one. So here we have /. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to make a public method. It's not going to return anything. It's going to be called /. And we're going to go ahead and put our ability name in there. Set that equal to /. We'll do ability description. We'll go ahead and set this a strong / from wielder's sword. I don't know, maybe you guys got some better fluff than I do. Ability ID, we'll go ahead and set this to 2. Excuse me. We'll go ahead and do our power. This is going to be a little stronger, so we'll go ahead and set this to 20. And then cost, since it's stronger, we're going to go ahead and make it a little more expensive. Again, these numbers are just placeholders for now because we haven't balanced the game. Okay, so now we've added 2 abilities and a base ability, so you can add as many abilities as you want. Hopefully you see that structure. Sorry, I had to drink some water. So we've added the 2 abilities, and now we're going to go ahead and add a new GUI. And this GUI is just going to consist of some moves, and it's going to be our play scene. So basically when we load the battle system, we're going to go into this scene. And this is the way you can handle all your battles if you want. So let's say you are making a turn-based game, like Pokemon or Final Fantasy, and you want to have all your battles in an area. Well, what you can do is have a battle scene. So all the battles are going to take place in the scene. And what you can do is you can just set up so it changes the environment. You know, you can swap out the environment. You can do different scenes for that too if you want. But you can just have one battle scene where everything takes place in the scene. You can just change the scenery, change the sprites in the background if it's 2D. You can I don't know, or you can just create one base kind of battle scene and then kind of branch off. So like from there you can build it as like this is example battle scene, and you can create a new one and just kind of swap out scenery, but the structure stays the same, right? Like your battle, all your scripts and stuff will be stored on there, and the way it basically runs is the same, but you're just going to use different scenes for artwork. You can do that as well. But when we start the battle, we're going to jump into the scene, and then we're going to have some buttons for moves, and or we'll show our player health and enemy health, and that way we can swap back and forth. So I am in a new scene here. It opened up with the program, so go ahead and open up a new scene. You can do that by file, new scene, save the old one if you need to, and we're going to go ahead and create in our battle turn-based combat here. We're going to go ahead and create a battle GUI. So we're going to call this battle GUI. I'm going to go ahead and attach a game object, and this is so that you guys can go ahead and make this a prefab and attach it to your different scenes if you want. So I'm going to go ahead and call this battle, let's say battle manager, I guess that works. And we're going to go ahead and attach the GUI to it, and we're going to go ahead and attach our turn-based combat state there, right? So we have our state machine and our GUI. We're going to go ahead and open up the GUI, and what I would like to do is go ahead, since we're saving all of our, since we have this new enemy here, right, we would like to display the new enemy's information on the screen, and what we're going to have to do is store all this information into a static, or what I like to do again is create a static class. I guess we can make the enemy a public static. Let's go ahead and do that actually. Let's see. Actually, we don't even need it to be, we just make it public, and therefore we can access it in our turn-based script. Okay, so let's see. We want to, in the battle GUI, we're going to go ahead and do a void on GUI function. Remember, this function is for the old GUI, legacy GUI. We are still in 4.5, so no worries. But this is going to be, we're going to work in the old 4.5 for a while, and maybe we might upgrade to 4.6 later on. But here we're going to need some buttons. So what I would like to do is go ahead and let's see. We're going to go ahead and create, we have two moves, so we're going to go ahead and create two buttons. We're going to want to show, let's see, we need buttons for players' moves. We need to show enemy health and other enemy information. That depends on what you want to show to your player, or for testing purposes you might want to show a lot of numbers. And then we're going to go ahead and need to show player information. And that also depends on what you want. So the first thing that we can do is, in player information, we can get everything from our game information script, or our game information script. Because if you remember, that doesn't get deleted when we switch scenes. So what we can do is go ahead and do game information. Actually, we're going to go ahead and create some private variables first. So we'll go ahead and capture a few things. We want to do a private string player name. We'll go ahead and do a private string or int player level, and then we'll go ahead and do a private int called player health. And now this could all be done in like a sophisticated GUI, like a, what do they call it, like a health bar and stuff. But we're just going to go ahead and show numbers because this is just testing, right? So we're going to go do it. The last thing we'll go ahead and do is player energy. We're calling it like that. All right. So now we have those on start. What we want to do, because at the start of the battle, we're going to want to go ahead and get these stats. So we got to go game information dot player name, and we're going to set that equal to player. Oh, actually, excuse me. We're going to go ahead and do player name is equal to this, and then we're going to do for the level. So we'll go player level is equal to our game information dot level, player level. We want the player health is going to be equal to, I don't think we have a player health here. We don't. Okay. So the health and energy are going to come from our stat calculations. So you remember we created this private variable in our battle state start where we create a new instance of stat calculation script, and that's what we're going to go ahead and copy because we're going to need to do that. We shouldn't really do it in our GUI. So what we can do is go ahead and set it. Let's do it in our battle state start, right? So we're doing a lot of calculations here. So we're going to go ahead and create a private void function method, and we're going to go ahead and call it calculate, or let's say determine player vitals, we'll call it, I guess, right? And what this is going to do, it's going to send out to our stat calculation script, and it's going to say, hey, we need our health and we need our energy. And we don't have those. We don't have, we actually don't know what that's going to be yet. But we're going to go ahead and do that now. And if you guys have suggestions after I create it and you hate what I do, leave it in the comments below and I can definitely change it. So we're going to go ahead and open up our stat allocation. Nope, not the stat allocation model. Where is it? We're going to go ahead and open up our stat calculation script. We have it here. And, let me zoom in this code. I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to do that, guys. So we'll go ahead and zoom in. And so we have our script here. And basically, we're going to go ahead and use our calculate stat, right? But then we want to go ahead and calculate health. So we're going to create a public int, and it's going to be calculate health. And our enemy and our player are going to use the same amount, same things for that. So we want to go ahead and leave that the same. And then we're going to go ahead and do public int calculate player, not player, energy. So we want to keep these as simple as possible, and we want to simple as possible and generic enough so that we can use these elsewhere. So basically, these two things are going to take a stat type or a stat value. So we're going to go ahead and do int stat value, and I think we're going to go ahead and say this needs a stat type. And the reason why I'm doing... Oh, actually, no, we don't need a stat type, excuse me. Okay, so my idea for health is we're going to calculate our stamina using these same modifiers above. So we're going to have to create one that's not our other if statement, if you remember. And then once we do that, we're going to go ahead, we're going to figure out our modifiers, and then we're going to calculate health by doing stamina times, I think, just a certain amount for now. So it's not super complex. It's pretty simple, and we can adjust that obviously later down the road. So let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna go. We'll go ahead and do else if. You could just do else if you wanted, but just to double check, I'm gonna go ahead and do an else if. I want to make sure that we're actually accessing, or I want to make sure that it's the enemy, or so you go ahead, is not the enemy, it's the player. So you go ahead and do is enemy false. So we're looking for the false, to see if it's false. You go ahead and do the exclamation point and you go is enemy. So this is asking, it's checking, is this bool false? If it is, then go ahead and run this code. And what we're going to do is go ahead and do that. So it's basically the same code. So we don't actually need to do that because the only thing that's going to change is our okay, so I'm going to leave this here for now because we actually might change the way we calculate, because that's why we did this last time. We might change the way we calculate player health. So I'm going to leave this else if statement here. It's not totally needed. We could actually just keep this and then just go ahead and here in our if statements and change the modifier and say stat modifier is equal to player stamina modifier. But we might end up changing, because we're going to do that too, but we might end up changing this formula for players. But maybe not. I'm not sure yet. So I'm going to go ahead and add stamina endurance modifiers for the player. So I copied these two enemy and enemy stamina and enemy endurance ones. I'm going to go ahead and add them here. Instead of enemy, I'm going to go ahead and call them player. We're going to change these to 30 for now. Let's go ahead and do 30. Leave our comments. Again, a lot of this now is going to be customizable to your game or your project you're working on. So don't, copy my stuff verbatim because it might not be what you're working with. So I'm going to go ahead and actually copy this stat modifier here. I'm going to go ahead and paste it. I'm going to come up here and copy our stamina one. Copy the endurance because that's what's going to be used to calculate our energy and stuff. And set it equal to player endurance. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and call calculate stat. At the start, we're going to calculate our stats, and then from there, we're going to go ahead and send in our things to calculate health. So what we do for health is we're going to go ahead and do return, and we're going to use the same health calculation and stuff for enemies and for now. So we're going to go ahead and do return, and we're going to say stat value, which will be stamina in this case. We'll go ahead, and we're going to, I guess, multiply that by 100, and that will be our health for now. So let's see. So we are calculating health. That's wrong. Calculating. There we go. Health based on total stamina stat times 100. And we're going to do the same thing basically here. We're going to go ahead and do return stat value. We need to go ahead and do int stat value. We're going to go return stat value times, we're going to say 50. And I left these as floats just because you don't need to. Actually, I'm going to go ahead so we don't throw a flag just in case. We shouldn't, but we're multiplying two integers together. The smart way to do this would make this a variable up here, so you can edit it without editing the code down here. But again, these are just temporary. So now we can calculate our health and calculate our energy, and we can apply that to our GUI. But there's a few things first, and I was just thinking about this as we were doing this, and the way I've handled battle states like this and stuff is created basically new static instances of the player and enemy. And what I mean by that is kind of like how I was talking about with the inventory class, where the inventory class is just static lists that stay with the player, and our game information script here stays with the player. So we're actually going to keep using this game information for the player, but we're probably going to need to make one called like enemy information for the enemy, and that will just be created when we go into battle. So before we end the video, we're going to go ahead and update the game information so we can calculate health real quick. So look for our game information script, which is here. I'm going to go ahead and create two more public static variables. So I'm going to come down here and paste them in. I just copied the required XP1 and copied and pasted it. And we're going to call this player health. And we're going to go ahead and change this to player energy. So when we jump into battle, we're going to go ahead and calculate this. And what we can do later on is when we actually instantiate the player and we're in game, when we load the game, we can go ahead and calculate these two bits as well, and so they see it like on screen if they need to before they go into battle. They can see how much health they have. Basically, anywhere they might see their health, we can make sure that it's calculated for them. So now that we have player health, we're going to go ahead and get it. But in our start function here in the battle GUI, we're actually going to want to do this in the we said we're going to do it in the battle start state. So here we go. The GUI can mean the same. So in our determine player vitals in the battle start state, we need to go ahead and figure out our health and stuff. And what we'll go ahead and do is we're going to need to make two private variables called integers. It'll be player stamina, and then private int player, endurance, I can't, like, I don't get why I cannot spell stamina. I keep misspelling it. I think that might be the most misspelled word I get. Okay, so Control S to save. We have our player stamina and player endurance in our battle state start script. And we're going to go ahead and capture those. So you're going to go player stamina is going to be equal to our game information.stamina. We're not storing any of those, huh? Oh, yeah, we are. Okay. That's what I thought. And then we'll go ahead and do player endurance is going to be equal to game information.endurance. And now we need to go ahead and call this stat calculation script again. So we'll go ahead and call that down. Actually, yeah. So what we'll do is go ahead and send player stamina is going to be equal to stat calculation script, calculate script. We'll go ahead and send our game information stamina in here. Bam. It's a stat type is stamina, and it's our new enemy. It's going to be game information player level. And this is going to be false because we're sending it the enemy. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste it again. And we'll go ahead and go through it again. So I'm doing stat calculation script, calculate stat. It's going to be our game information. It's not going to be stamina. It's going to go ahead and be endurance. It's going to be type endurance. And it's not going to be our new enemy. It's going to be our game information, which is our player. And it's going to go ahead and be false. So we are calculating our total stamina and our total endurance. The next thing we need to do is go ahead and get our health, right? So we're going to go ahead and calculate that stat. And so we'll go player, or we'll go ahead and do, what do we want to do? We're going to go ahead and create private instances of them. So we'll go ahead and do player health, private and player endurance. And once we get this done, I'm going to go ahead and we'll probably end the video there for today. So we'll go ahead and do player health. We're going to set that equal to our stat calculations script dot calculate stat, or no, not that. It's going to be script dot calculate health. And you remember that takes a stat value, so we're going to go ahead and send it player stamina. And then we'll go player endurance is equal to stat calculation script dot calculate energy, and we'll go player endurance. So here we are calculating our endurance or our energy, and up here we are calculating our health. And so now what we can do is, now that we found these two things, we can go ahead and just say game information dot player health is equal to our player health. I'm doing this so that we can use these player health and player endurance values again later on, and not save it in that. So game information player energy is equal to player energy. Endurance. I'm going to go ahead and change endurance to player energy up here because that's what it should be. There we go. Alright, so we're calculating our two stats, and then we're looking and saying player energy and player health. Now there's definitely a few things you might be seeing wrong with these calculations, such as we're not taking into account gear, which we haven't talked about because we haven't created inventory, and we can do that. And I might end up changing around a little bit how we handle these the game information in our enemy script, but I'll think about that tonight, and if I do change anything, I'll make sure I'll let you guys all know, and we can work on it together. But anyways, we created some abilities today. We created a GUI that doesn't do anything yet, but it's there so that we can actually do some moves. We created two new functions in our calculate stat script, or stat calculation script, and we created a new modifier, a new it's the same algorithm, but it could be different here for the player, and we are accessing all that and calculating our player vitals using the scripts that we've created in the previous videos. So hopefully you liked the video, hopefully you learned something. Please like, subscribe, comment. You can follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook, whatever you like. And I guess I'll see you next time. And next time we'll work on getting farther into our battle system. If you want to see something specific, leave a comment and I'll try to look at it, see if we can do it, see if I can add it into the schedule. But anyways, I'll talk to you guys next time.